Hi, and welcome to episode 7 of Texas Tracks and Taps. I'm Graham.
I'm John.
And I'm Corey.
We're real excited about today's episode. We're going to jump into some stuff concerning our assignment from last week, which actually, so what happened is we got so caught up in that episode, we forgot to do an assignment. So what we did, per Coy's suggestion, since our last episode was about AI, we decided to have AI actually give us the assignment for this week. So we're going to jump into that. We're also going to discuss, mostly Coy and John are going to discuss their recent venture out to Billy Bob's to take in local legends, the Toadies. So we're going to get their thoughts on that show, a little concert review, so to speak, and a venue review because it was John's first time to Billy Bob's. So that's exciting. Yeah, and then we're also going to highlight one of our local Texas breweries as well. Let's go ahead and jump right into the AI assignment. First off, let me just say this particular assignment that we did land on, it did take a little bit of coaxing from AI when I originally, gave it a prompt to give the host of the show an assignment. It gave us all three like a different separate assignment, which a couple of those were intriguing, but I wanted it to give us one, group assignment. So to focus that in a little bit. And then it gave me a random country artist that I hadn't ever heard of, which was fine, but I just kind of wanted to focus it in more on a rock act. So, and then once I, gave it those instructions, it came up with the band out of Austin, The Sword metal band. So we checked them out. We all gave them some attention these past couple of days, and I'm going to go around and just kind of get everybody's thoughts on it, starting with John.
Yeah, thanks, Graham. Well, I completely screwed this up because I thought it was S-words that we were doing a review on, not sword, but little SNL throwback for you guys, those of you that are fans of SNL. But no, The Sword, man, I'd never heard of these guys before. And the first thing, we talked about AI last episode. The first thing that came to mind is that I always think that I have an above average IQ when it comes to music and bands. And then something like this gets tossed on my plate and I feel like a complete moron and idiot that a band like The Sword I've never even heard of, but they're amazing. They're fantastic. They are I think, very hard, heavy metal band that are based out of Austin, or I should say they kind of were based out of Austin. I did a little bit of research and I don't know if you guys ran into this. They broke up, but then they had a concert at the end of 2024. So maybe they're back together. I'm not quite sure, but they officially announced, I think, that they were not going to be recording anymore. But man, they're a real hard band. And just my first impressions of them, I listened to 3 complete albums from these guys. And I always say I do it the same old way. I listen to the first album that they ever put out. I listen to the most recent album, and then I pick a random one in between, or I listen to a couple if I can. And the first one I listened to was Age of Winters, which was their first album back in 2006, although it sounded like they had been together several years before, and they probably released some other material, just not in an album format. But Age of Winters was fantastic. And, there's a couple of songs on there that I really liked: Iron Swan, March of the Lord, and then I'm going to slaughter the name. I think it's Ebathron is how it's pronounced. One of the things that I think you're going to run into when you listen to The Sword is a lot of their songs have references to Norse mythology within them. And I think the titles of those, I'm not very well educated on mythology in general, of any type of mythology, but I think a lot of the titles of the songs are based on that. So, but I listened to, a couple other albums, listened to Used Furniture, which was put out in 2018. Couple of really great tracks on that, and one album I'm going to buy without a doubt. I think it's pronounced, I'm going to slaughter this guy. Hakakron was put out in 2012. Entire album is just fantastic. Like, I loved it. It's hard. I read into it and definitely heard Black Sabbath influence, Melvin's influence. And I even on that last album, I'm not going to try to say it again, but it's their album they put out in 2012. A couple tracks really, you could tell it had Metallica influence into it as well. So stellar band, man. Just, you have to really enjoy that hard that hardcore heavy metal stuff. How about you guys?
Yeah, I started with the first album, Age of Winners. It was great. Listened to the second album, Gods of the Earth. And yeah, lots of mythology, lots of fantasy. So it's like that kind of high fantasy metal. But I think their newer stuff has mixed in some sci-fi elements as well, from what I heard. We didn't have enough time for me to check out everything. So I'm like, John, I'm going to have to keep going and keep listening. This is definitely one of those assignments where I really liked the band. I had heard of them, and I guess that's maybe just a Texas proximity thing, but I hear about them like on Facebook and some of the music groups I'm in, from lots of people that like were saying like that they're so underrated, and they're not necessarily people from Texas talking about them. So I think they do have a pretty good reach. So I was excited that AI had given us this assignment, which actually reminds me, Graham, was the random country artist, was it Cody Canyon by chance?
Yeah, I think it was.
Because keep an ear out for that local country artist.
Yeah.
But no, I really enjoyed that first album and the second album too. I listened to bits and pieces, just newer songs, just to kind of hear some of their newer stuff. I think they've evolved, sounds like, and I guess, again, I need to listen to everything to really know what I'm talking about here, but it sounds like they've evolved to maybe more of just a hard rock sound, less metally is what I was getting from some of the newer stuff. But I definitely get that metal vibe. And like you said, Black Sabbath, I was definitely feeling on those first two. I also got some Led Zeppelin vibes off of them as well. But what I love is you can also, and maybe it's just, again, a Texas proximity thing or a bias, but I hear Texas influence in it too, which is really cool to hear those like UK, fathers of metal type bands, but then hear like, okay, those guitars and those vocals are like a little Southern, a little Texas, so it's kind of that Southern rock thing. It's got Texas, it's got metal, it's got, Tolkien and Norse mythology inspired lyrics and names. So one of the third track on Age of Winners is Freya. So my anecdote about this is I had always wanted to check out the Sword and was thinking I'd never heard them. I got to that third track and I was like, man, you know what this is like making me want to do is play Guitar Hero. And I haven't played that in forever and I don't know why, but this would have been a great Guitar Hero song. And I'm like, you know what? I wonder if they were ever on Guitar Hero. So I Googled it. The song I was listening to, Freya, was on Guitar Hero 2. I completely forgot about it, but I was obsessed with Guitar Hero and Guitar Hero 2. And I'm like, well, okay, so this song was back in my head still from whenever I played that game all the time. Had forgotten about it for the most part. I hear it one time and it triggered a response that I wanted to play Guitar Hero. And like, it just reminded me how cool music is, that it can remind you of a time in your life, and you might not even remember why it reminds you of that, or realize that it is reminding you. You might just be thinking it's like random memory or random association, but it's not random. It was like, that was the exact song that I was playing on Guitar Hero. So cool. I love music, cool stuff like that. It can remind you of exactly of a day in your life or a smell, even, like a smell that you encountered in music. No,
it's subconscious a lot of times. Like it's just, it's in the fiber of your beings,
Yeah, that was extremely subconscious. Hadn't played that game in almost 20 years probably, but so I thought that was really cool. But yeah, it got me in the mood to, I was actually, the drink I had on the last show, I had a little bit left of that oak fermented Vienna lager, and that went really well with the Sword. It just was like oaky and European. And anyway, but yeah, I absolutely loved this assignment. So thank you, AI, once again. And thank you, Graham, for actually working with AI and whittling it down to get it to something good content-wise for the show. But Graham, tell us your thoughts on the Sword.
Yeah, I mean, you guys kind of touched on a lot of it already, a lot of kind of the same notes I had, but I didn't really focus as much on, I guess, a lot of the, imagery and stuff, but I did think it was cool, the mythology and all that. But sound-wise, for me, yeah, I listened to 2 of their albums. The second one, The Gods of the Earth, which I really, really enjoyed, and then also used Future. I think it's used Future and not used Furniture, if I'm not mistaken, but I could be wrong. I thought it was used Future, but I may have screwed up.
It's used future.
Okay.
Yeah.
So used future. Like
Did I say used furniture?
You did.
Yeah.
I was like, I definitely didn't make it to that album. But that sounds cool. I'm going to check that one out.
Future, sorry. I was like, did I make that error?
Yeah. But anyhow, so yeah, those were the two albums I listened to. I listened to Gods of the Earth pretty much all the way through. Huge Future, not quite. Didn't get quite all the way through it. But yeah, totally, especially on Gods of the Earth, got a lot of just that early metal influence, like y'all were saying, the British metal and stuff. Sabbath for sure, jumped out at me immediately. Vocals especially kind of had that, Aussie kind of sound to it, kind of the lo-fi production quality as well. I think harken back to that classic metal. Motorhead was another one I thought of, but definitely they fall into that stoner doom metal, which those kind of bleed over as far as the genre. At times the rhythm guitars remind me a lot of Pantera, very different in terms of, like, again, the production quality, whereas, Pantera is quite a bit different, very clean and crisp and clear, and they're not like that. But some of the rhythm, some of the styling of the rhythm guitars reminded me of Pantera. And then on the later stuff, I actually got a lot of different influence from that. One that stood out in particular to me was both of Josh Homme. How do you say his name? Homme? I don't know. The guy from Queens of the Stone Age.
Yeah.
And he has another band, Caius, I think is how it's pronounced.
This is a pronunciation episode for sure.
Yeah, both of those, I got, a lot of their sound reminded me of those two bands quite a bit. And then with Used Future, when I listened to that sounded quite a bit different in a lot of ways than Gods of the Earth. It was, kind of like Coy touched on, I think got it into a little bit away from the metal, the hardcore metal, and more into kind of a southern bluesy kind of classic rock influences, but at the same time kind of maintaining, that doom or stoner metal vibe as well. So it was a cool kind of how later on they kind of started to fuse, the different sounds and different influences a bit more. Personally, myself, I did prefer the earlier stuff than the later stuff. It's just a personal preference. I get why someone would definitely gravitate towards the more bluesy southern rock kind of vibing stuff. But yeah, they did a real good job at kind of progressing and blending the genres. I did also check out that newest single that they put out, and that was quite a bit different too.
Yeah. Again,
Very much a classic rock vibe. Jethro Tull came to mind immediately.
Well, it had a
it's
flute
got
solo.
the flute in there, so get a little woodwind going on. So yeah, so that was neat. But yeah, definitely enjoyed the band. I had heard of them before and probably had heard a song or two, but hadn't really ever dove into their catalog. So yeah, I definitely added a lot of their songs to my playlists and will continue checking them out further. So yeah, big thumbs up for Sword.
Well, I was just going to add that they have an album called High Country, but then they came out with an acoustic version of it called Low Country.
Oh.
And that's one of the ones I haven't checked out yet, but I definitely want to check out their acoustic album because there's some acoustic guitar on Gods of the Earth that I was like, oh my gosh, that's like, these are really talented musicians.
Very talented.
They are super talented. That is not easy to do at all what they're doing and do it well. So I want to check that out. And my hope is that it's like some really cool background music for like Dungeons and Dragons or something. Cause it like with the high fantasy themes they already got going, like you kind of put that in like an acoustic, it could be like minstrelly, so we'll see.
Absolutely. Yeah. Very cool.
What were you going to say, John?
Well, I'm just anxious for their next album to be new furniture rather than used furniture.
Right.
Yes. No, it's painful to say this, but of all the assignments that I've got so far, AI picked the best one, like the best band, I should say. Yeah. So I really enjoyed these guys. And, like I said, there's an album I want to pick up, and I think it's actually pronounced apocryphone. I think that's how you would probably pronounce that, but
that makes sense.
But I had trouble with Future. So anyway, guys, what are we drinking tonight?
Sounds like we've got to start already.
Yeah. What are you guys drinking
Real
tonight?
tongue twisters tonight.
So I think we're all drinking the McKinney Brewery Tupps beer. I've got Full Grown Man. It's their Imperial Stout. Just the classic version. They do a lot of variants of this as well. They're all fantastic.
It's like it could be an album cover for the sword.
This is my proper glassware. Just got the Full Grown Man glass here.
Nice.
So very cool. I got that a while back. But yeah, it's fantastic. You know, it's a big, boozy, 12% Imperial Stout. You know, you get notes of chocolate, roasty, coffee, all that good stuff that a good Imperial Stout should have. And it's just really well done. And I always enjoy it. And the variants, like I said, you know, there's a whole bunch of them, but they're all fantastic.
Yeah, that's the right choice for the cold weather we've had lately. That's what I wish I was drinking, although I will drink this one any day, and I had some ready to go. But this is Juice Pack. So this is a crushable 6%, so definitely the other direction. It's a hazy IPA. As far as glassware, I went with, because of our Norse music, went with a glass from Norway by way of Epcot in Orlando, Florida. But one day I'll make it to Norway and get a real Norway glass. But what about you, John?
Well, those are two good choices you guys have. I went the weakest route in terms of alcohol content, a 5.6% alcohol by volume, but Mighty Tasty Spiced Lager, which is also another good choice for the winter. It's got a little bit of cinnamon, cardamom, and nutmeg in it. So probably really good to drink around Christmas time. Of course, we've had snow here and a lot of cold in the Dallas-Fort Worth area over the past few days. And so it's a good little winter lager to warm your insides. So
yeah, I haven't had that one, but it sounds good. I really want to try it out. Hopefully I can try it out. I really want to get out to the brewery at some point, which I hadn't been out to the original location, but they recently just moved locations and they've got a big sprawling property with multiple buildings on site there. They've got a full kitchen, full restaurant there. They're about to add a coffee house, separate building there, a little coffee house on site. But yeah, these guys, they started out brewing in their garage, 2009. Keith Lewis and his former partner, Tupper Patnode, I believe is how it's pronounced, which I assume is where they got the name Tupps. But apparently he's no longer part of the organization. But anyway, yeah, Keith's wife Pam gave him a homebrew kit for Christmas, and that's how they kind of decided that they really enjoyed that process of brewing beer and decided they wanted to open a brewery. Keith's son Chris is now the head brewer. They kind of taught him the ropes, and he's in charge of brewing now. But yeah, they're down there in McKinney's, what they call Mill District. Looks really, really cool. They host live music regularly. They've got a full stage set up out there. So yeah, I definitely, and all of us need to go out there and check it out at some point.
I have been there. I haven't been lately, so it might have changed a little bit. But that whole district, but especially that brewery, it's really cool. Really cool part of McKinney. Really makes it a destination more than it already was. But I also just want to say, John, great pronunciation on cardamom.
Did I completely blow that one?
No, you got it. I'm saying great job.
No, you did it perfect.
It's the one word we've gotten right today.
Yeah. Don't ask me what the hell it is because I have no idea.
Okay, AI will tell us here in a second.
I have a quick question for you, though. I've been to McKinney a couple times. Is it on the square, like in the little downtown? Well, not the square, but they have a cute little downtown area in McKinney. Is it located over there?
I've only been to that area where the brewery is, so it feels like that's their downtown. So I would say yes. But there's a big mill. Was there a big mill there? Like an old mill? Okay.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing that.
I would think it's probably close to that.
It's probably close.
But I'm not certain. All right. Well,
cardamom is the aromatic seeds of a plant of the ginger family used as a spice and also medicinally or medicinally, as I want to pronounce it.
Yes, medicinally.
Medicinally, yeah.
We teach you medical stuff here. Texas tracks and taps.
That's the medical term for it. Is
Yes.
Do not ever take any medical advice from Texas Tracks and Taps.
No, do not.
So, guys, tell me about the show that I unfortunately didn't get to make it to, sadly. But I'm glad you guys got to go. I really am. Toadies at Billy Bob's with Vandoliers as the opening act. Well, how was it?
Go
It
ahead,
was
Corey.
great. No, it was awesome. So John had never seen the Toadies before, and he'd never been to Billy Bob's before. I haven't been to Billy Bob's a ton, but I had been there before. So I was like, you got to go. This is like it checks 2 boxes for you. I've seen the Toadies a lot, just love them, but they sound great still. Vaden Todd Lewis, he still has the pipes. I don't know if I could sing like him, I couldn't imagine I could do it as long as he does it. And he still sounds as good as he did on those early albums. I mean, like it was just thumping in there and Billy Bob's is great. They serve whiskey drinks, vodka drinks, probably cider drinks. What else?
All right. Should we just pause right there and kind of share
What do you mean, John? What do you mean?
the whole whiskey drink, vodka drink, and
Yeah.
whatever. You might have said pissing the
I mean,
night
like,
away.
The Toadies are a kind of band that if they got knocked down, they'd just get right back up again.
Yeah, let's just
For
get this out in the open. So why did we go see the Toadies in the
Because
first?
they're awesome. They're great.
They absolutely were great, and I definitely want to give kind of a review of the concert because I thought it was a stellar concert. But sharing with everybody that's listening, the 3 of us went to a concert with our significant others in tow, and they had to suffer our arguments about music or I should say debates, not arguments.
That was the real episode 0 of this podcast, was us at that show debating about certain things. But yeah, the Toadies might have come up because it was the Pixies. That was the
Pixies.
Yeah.
Yes. So we were going to see the Pixies, and we were going down to
Southside Ballroom.
That's right. And it was a very picturesque night. Everything was going beautifully. Everything was amicable in the car. Everybody was happy, but somehow we started talking about the Toadies.
Because there were people wearing the Toadies band t-shirts at the Pixies, and the Pixies were a huge influence on the Toadies.
As you get to know Johnny likes to just kind of poke people and push buttons, so to speak. And I made the off the cuff comment that the Toadies are the Chumbawamba of Texas. Now that this is going to go out on the interwebs, I'm sure there's going to be lots of heat and feedback for that comment, but
as there should be.
Yeah.
My lens that I'm looking through is that I did not grow up in Texas at the time that the Toadies were popular. I was in Atlanta, and I certainly heard Possum Kingdom on the radio, but that's the only song I heard from the Toadies. There were no other songs. And as I ventured my way around this great nation multiple times, that's the only song that I'd ever heard until I moved to Texas about 7-8 years ago. And so they have a very strong following here. And I want to just say, you could feel that in the room at Billy Bob's. They truly have some great fans. They've got, folks that have listened to all of their albums. And I think they put out don't quote me on this, 6 or 7 different albums, maybe even more. Another one's coming out next year, we learned at the concert, which should be very exciting. When I made that comment, I was looking at it through the lens of not living in Texas, not living in the DFW area, and not having the exposure that probably Graham and Coy had. But they definitely turned me on to be a fan. I do have the album Rubberneck. I've listened to the entire album since I moved to Texas. But, really enjoyed the show. And I'm hoping we can just put this behind us, Graham and Coy, and not bring this up anymore.
No, we're not doing that.
Well, yeah, we'll see. I mean,
this will forever be referenced and brought back up.
But I guess we should reference Chumbawamba too, shouldn't we, Coy?
That one was hard to get into a sentence, but no, I think the conversation went to one-hit wonders and why there are some bands out there that have no hits that are great bands, and so what does it matter how many hits you have as long as you enjoy the music? I think is where we ultimately ended up on that. But the more that we would get into it, because this is something that like even years later, we still will randomly pick this conversation back up, like in our group text or in person. And it was like, the more I looked into it, I was like, man, to be the Chumbawamba is actually wouldn't be that bad because they had like a #1 top 100 hit. That was like probably that was way bigger than the Pixies or Toadies ever.
Yeah. Top 40
Right.
chart. Like not even
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
alternative chart or whatever.
Yeah, it was modern rock. Pixies and Toadies both did very well on the modern rock charts with their respective hits.
But I remember that night I offended a couple gentlemen quite a bit by making that comment. So,
Well, I don't know why it rubbed me the wrong way, but I've grown to embrace it. But I still like to bring it up because it was just I was just not prepared for those words to come out
John,
of
you
anybody's mouth.
definitely
It's such a random, bold claim. I didn't know how to process it, and I still don't. And I'll probably be processing it for the rest of my life.
And John, you definitely didn't intend it as a compliment.
no, I didn't.
It was definitely a slight. So yeah.
No, but can we get to the show? Like the show was amazing. And I went through, actually we saw 21 or listened to 21 songs, 7 off of Rubberneck. So they played like, I think that album has like 10 tracks or 11 tracks. So they played almost the entire album. They played 3 off of Hell Below and Stars Above, and 3 off of No Deliverance. Was that the other album? And then they played 3 new tracks that will be on, I think, the album coming out this year. I said next year, but it's this year now.
It was last
That's
year.
cool.
Yeah,
I
last
didn't-
year when we saw them.
I didn't know
the
they
whole
had
year.
or were working on new stuff. How was the new stuff?
It was
Good.
legit. Yeah, it was good. But
Really.
Coy, I want you to. They did 2 covers, and I think it was the first time. Even though I had actually before I went to the concert heard this cover, I played it on YouTube. Coy, I won't steal your thunder. What was it?
Well, yeah. So this song, they released it as a single in like fall of 2023. And I remember it was like, oh, that's really good. And kind of, went about it's been a year since I really remembered that song coming out. And they did it for the parks and Texas Parks and Wildlife was having different Texas artists cover other Texas artists. And so the Toadies chose Kelly Clarkson and Since You've Been Gone. And their version I thought it was really cool when I heard the recording of it. So when they came out for their encore and they just kind of gave a quick little heads up, like, hey, we're about to play a cover and this is the background behind why we recorded it. And I loved it live even more than in the recording. It is such a cool, fun version of that song. I like the original personally, but hearing it with their take on it, it was really cool. I've been re-listening to that since that concert. I'll play it randomly. I actually shot some video because my girls were like, hey, send us a video of the concert because they had dropped me off on our way back from Burleson, actually, Kelly Clarkson's. We were visiting family out there. It was around the holidays. So they saw the line wrapping around, the block to get into Billy Bob's. They're like, you're going to this concert? I was like, yeah. And they're like, send us video. Like they didn't know what they're asking for. But when that song came on, I was like, this is the song I'm sending them video.
Yeah.
of. So I sent them that and they really enjoyed it. So I'll put it on in the car. They don't protest. And I'm like, hey, cool. We're listening to Toadies together. So thank you, Kelly Clarkson. Thank you, Toadies.
No, that
Yeah,
is a great
that was
song.
great.
I had forgotten that they covered that, but I remember listening to it when it came out. It's a great version. Yeah,
Yeah.
I bet it was real fun live.
I actually liked it better than the original.
Well, I mean, yeah, of course, but
Because I'm a
the original is pretty good. I mean, it's a good song. So what about, talked about the show a little bit. John, I want to get your thoughts more specifically on Billy Bob's itself. I mean, it's a historic Texas Fort Worth venue. So what were your thoughts on the venue? And I heard maybe you got a little bit of a tour of the place or something.
very interesting venue. Yeah. It's ginormous, I think is the way most people would describe
It's
it.
sprawling.
Bars everywhere. And I like describing it just doesn't do it justice. You have to actually go to this place. And quite frankly, I don't even think that we took the time to explore the entire facility. So like, I think we saw a pretty good amount of it, But like when you come in, you've got like, they have like an entire store of like Billy Bob's type things that you can purchase there. There's, I guess it's a thing that they do with a lot of the artists where they actually get cement imprints of their, man, was it their feet or their hands? I forget which one it was now.
I
I
want
think
to say
it's
it's their boots, yeah, or their feet.
yeah,
I
their feet,
think.
their boots. Yeah.
I saw
Uh,
both. I saw hands, and then I also saw cowboy boots, and
Mm.
okay.
there's
But they have those, like they actually put them up on the walls. And so you can go through and see a lot of the, musicians and bands that have played through the years. And there's some really cool ones. And, definitely has the Fort Worth stockyard, like country vibe when you're walking into it. But, just take the Toadies are not a country band at all. They have had plenty of rock bands. Some really big names have played at Billy Bob. So that was really cool to kind of walk through and just see all the imprints and to see who's played. But there's a there's a mechanical bull in there.
there's
There's
live
breast
bulls in
drum.
there too. We just didn't make it to the live bull arena, but there's live
Yes.
bull riding
Yeah.
in there as well.
That's crazy, man. Like, so, it's huge. And then they have dance floors. The Toadies are playing. They're jamming out hard, right? Just everybody's having a good time on the concert floor. But then back where Coy and I were standing, there was actually like a line dancing, like a dance floor, and there were some people out there that were trying to dance on that. And it's a great place for people watching if you dig that kind of stuff, because there's all kinds of folks that are there. So I want to go back. I mean, I think it would be kind of a cool place to check out when there's not a show going on and just walk around and see what's in there. And it's huge, man. Like it probably would take you a while to get around, but
It is the world's largest honky tonk.
oh, it is. Oh, so it's considered a honky tonk, even though,
Yeah, I mean, historically, it was a country venue, but I mean, yes, over the past couple decades, they have ventured out into having rock acts and different genres, play there as well.
yeah, but it was not like what I thought it was going to be when I walked in. I thought it was going to be, it's like 3 times the size of Southside Ballroom. Like it, but it was an experience for sure. So thank you, Coy, for
Yeah.
exposing me to that.
Yeah, I think the Toadies play there like every year towards the end of the year. So they've been doing that for a while. But yeah, Billy Bob's is definitely proof that Texans will two-step to anything, including Toadies. But it was funny. I looking around the crowd, it was cool, encouraging to see a lot of young people there that were there to see, Vandoliers were the opening act. They were fantastic as well. I had not seen them live before, and I'm like a big fan now. But this younger crowd was there to see the Toadies, see Vandoliers, the older crowd like us who grew up with them. But then there was another crowd, I feel like, that was just going to Billy Bob's and didn't realize that there was a concert going on, but they didn't care either. And they were just, because they were like head to toe Western wear,
Right.
which it's the stockyards and it's Fort Worth. So that happens literally anywhere you go in Fort Worth, someone's in head to toe Western wear. I get that. But it was, like I said, it was just really funny to be like looking at kind of punkers and rockers and then like that guy's line dancing. But that's, it was just, but yeah, it was
It's also a huge tourist attraction. I mean,
Yes.
people who come to town, obviously stockyards are a big tourist attraction, but
Yeah.
Billy Bob's itself, just because of reputation, that it has,
And it was the holidays, so there's probably a lot of people in town visiting family and stuff. So it was packed. Like everyone was there to have a good time. Everyone, I think, had a good time from what I could tell. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. So thanks for going, John.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the Toadies. Vandoliers were great too. We didn't talk enough about those guys, but they put on a really great opening show. And unfortunately, Pete Sinclair actually opened before the Vandoliers. The line to get into Billy Bob's was so long that unfortunately we missed Pete's set. But the Vandoliers put on a heck of a show, and they're alt country, similar to Graham and I have seen Drive By Truckers. I'd say similar to them, but they almost had I called them similar to the Pogues, which is Irish music, but they have a violin or fiddle, I guess you would call it, in the band, and it definitely has that kind of Irish vibe to it a little bit, where it's not just pure country music.
I got the Irish punk, like
I was
Dropkick
gonna say a little bit of a
vibes
punk
as well.
vibe.
Yeah, a lot of punk, but then I think with the fiddle, and then they had their keyboard player played trumpet on a lot of songs too. So you kind of got a little bit of like you said, the Pogues. I got a little bit of Dropkick Murphys, but I think there was a term called cowpunk that was kind of coined around the time Old 97s first started kind of doing their thing, because they had kind of those faster songs. So yeah, they would kind of alternate between slower, what I call like, more like the slower alternative country, alt rock, but then they'd have the really fast ones. And he would even say, like, we've done a country song, time for a punk song, and then they do like a fast one, and it'd be like, so it'd be like the fastest song they did, and trumpet would be going crazy. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
So Joshua Fleming's lead singer for them, hell of a front man. Like he's a real fun front man.
Great voice too, man. He can sing.
Yeah, I'm jealous, guys. I really wanted to see Toadies first of all, but Vandoliers I've been wanting to see for a while as well. So glad
How was Oklahoma, Graham?
We'll definitely go and check them out again.
How was Oklahoma?
Oh, it was fun. We already talked about it, but yeah, I regret missing the show, but I didn't have a choice. So
I'll send you the video of Since You've Been Gone that I took.
Nice.
Be like you were there.
All right. So I think John has our next assignment for our next episode.
Yeah, this one's always tough for me because you guys are so well versed in local music. So this one actually was a band that was sent to me last week by my better half. And I had not heard of this band, so I kind of checked them out, did kind of a little bit of my quick deep dive on YouTube and Spotify, but it is a band called Derek and the Moonrocks, and they are actually based out of Abilene, which is kind of a unique part of Texas that we probably don't highlight as much as some of the other areas, but
West Texas, I think country artists, if any artists come from out of West Texas, but I don't think this is a country artist from that name.
They are not country. They would be considered, I believe, rock, but listen to, several tracks from them, and they're a band that I have added to a couple of my playlists. So Derek and the Moonrocks, they are actually on tour right now. Unfortunately, I think we missed them the end of last year. They rolled through and played, I think, is it Tannehill's down in Fort Worth? So I actually caught a couple of the YouTube videos from that show. But I'm interested in you guys checking them out and just kind of giving me feedback in the next episode to tell me what you think about these chaps from Abilene.
And John, are you saying Derek or Dexter?
Is it Derek or Dexter?
I believe it's Dexter.
Is it Dexter?
I believe, but we've been pronouncing everything really great today. So it would be on par if it was.
We need to cut beer out of these episodes because apparently I've been drinking too much.
Never.
Dexter.
So, so I just now tried to look him up, and it was like, do you mean Dexter?
I was like, which one did I say?
Probably, and this thought went through my mind, but you're probably confusing with Derek and the Dominoes.
Yes.
Dexter and the Moonrocks.
Google was like, do you mean Derek and the Dominoes or Dexter and the Moonrocks? And I'm like,
it's
I don't
Dexter
know.
and the Dominoes.
Yeah, they're from Odessa.
Man, I think we need to end this episode, Graham.
Best episode ever.
It's too late. Too late. Too much beer. Coy and Graham, always great talking to you. And I want to, we never actually did a cheers, did we? I'm about to finish my beer. I want to thank everybody for listening, watching Texas Tracks and Taps. Please be sure that you give us a like or a follow on all the platforms that are out there. We're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, and we're on Spotify. So please make sure you subscribe if it's on YouTube or Spotify, and give us a like on IG or on Facebook. Other than that, we'll see you next time.
Good night.
Cheers.